Captain Lee Minho stared out at the massive alien ship through the bridge window. The thing was huge, at least 10 times bigger than his own vessel, the New Soul. Dark metal covered its surface, and strange purple lights glowed along its sides. It looked like something from a nightmare. "Captain," said Kim Tae-hyung from his communications station. His voice was tight with worry. "They're sending a message." "Put it through," Minho replied. He straightened his uniform and tried to look confident. This was humanity's first contact with an alien empire, and he wanted to make a good impression. The main screen flickered to life. A tall figure appeared, wearing armor that seemed to be made of black crystal. The being looked almost human, but taller and more elegant. Her skin was pale like moonlight, and her eyes glowed with a soft red light. When she spoke, her voice was cold and commanding. "I am Empress Valara of the Velkari Empire," she said. The universal translator made her words sound formal and ancient. "Your species has entered our territory without permission. You will surrender your ship immediately, or your people will face eternal servitude." Chief Engineer Park Ji-woo turned in her chair to look at Minho. She was trying to keep calm, but he could see the fear in her eyes. Medical Officer Choi Yuna was scanning the alien ship with her instruments, her face focused and serious. Minho had read about this kind of situation in the academy. First contact protocols said to be respectful and diplomatic, but something about the alien's arrogant tone bothered him. Humans had traveled across half the galaxy to get here, and this was the welcome they got? "Well," Minho said with a slight smile, "if you're offering eternal servitude, I want you." The words came out before he could stop them. It was just a joke, the kind of silly comment he might make to his friends back on Earth. But as soon as he said it, everything changed. The alien empress went completely still. Her glowing eyes widened and she stared at Minho like he had just said something incredible. Behind her, other armored figures started making surprised sounds. "Did he just—" One of them whispered. "The human dares—" Another said. Empress Valara raised her hand, and all the other aliens fell silent. She looked directly at Minho through the screen, and something in her expression had changed. The cold arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like respect. "You claim me?" she asked. Her voice was different now, softer but also more dangerous. "I'm sorry, what?" Minho said. He looked around at his crew, who all seemed just as confused as he was. The Empress began moving her hands to her armor. She touched something at her throat, and the crystal-like plates started to shift and separate. "If you claim me, then by the ancient laws of my people, I must respond." Wait, Minho said quickly. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. I was just making a joke." But the translator seemed to be having trouble with the word joke. It came out sounding like formal challenge or declaration of intent. The Empress continued removing her armor pieces, placing them carefully on a table beside her. Park Ji-woo was frantically typing at her computer station. "Captain," she whispered, "I'm trying to look up their customs, but we don't have much information about Velkari culture." "Tell me about it," Minho muttered. He watched as more armor came off, revealing that the Empress wore a simple black outfit. Underneath, she was even more beautiful without the heavy armor, but that wasn't helping the situation. On the screen, other Velkari were gathering around their Empress. They looked excited and worried at the same time. Some were pointing at the human crew and talking quickly in their own language. "Empress," said a large Velkari warrior with golden decorations on his armor. "Are you certain about this? The human is small and weak. Surely he cannot be worthy of you." "Commander Zephyr," the Empress replied without looking at him, "the human was bold enough to claim me directly. In all our history, only the strongest warriors have dared to do such a thing. Perhaps there is more to these creatures than we first thought." Choi Yuna leaned over to Minho. "Captain, my scans are picking up some interesting energy readings from their ship. These aliens seem to be— I'm not sure how to describe it. It's like they're hungry for something." "Hungry for what?" Minho asked. "Energy," she said. "Life energy, maybe. Their bio readings are strange. It's like they're not getting enough of something they need to survive. On the screen, the Empress had finished removing most of her armor. She looked directly at Minho again. "I will come to your ship," she announced. "We must complete the claiming ritual properly." "The what ritual?" Minho said, but she had already cut the connection. Tai-hyung turned around in his chair. "Captain, they're requesting permission to board. What should I tell them?" Minho thought quickly. Refusing might start a war that humanity couldn't win, but letting them board could be just as dangerous. Still, they had come out here to make contact with alien civilizations. This was just happening faster and stranger than anyone had planned. "Grant permission," he said finally, "but keep our defensive systems ready, just in case." "Yes, sir," Tai-hyung replied. Park Ji-woo was still searching through the computer databases. "Captain, I found something," she said. "According to what little information we have, the Velkari are some kind of energy-based life form. They've conquered dozens of star systems, but not for territory or resources. They seem to take something from other species." "Take what?" Minho asked. "Life force," she said quietly. "They're like vampires, but for energy instead of blood." The ship shuddered slightly as the alien vessel attached itself to their docking port. Minho could hear the sound of the airlock connecting. In a few minutes, he would be face to face with an alien vampire empress who thought he had just proposed to her. "Well," he said to his crew, "this is not how I expected first contact to go." Choi Yuna checked her medical scanner again. "Captain, the energy readings are getting stronger. Whatever they want from us, I think we're full of it." The sound of footsteps echoed through the ship's corridors. They were coming. The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. Empress Valara stepped onto the human ship, followed by 6 of her armored guards. Without her heavy battle armor, she looked more elegant but somehow more dangerous too. Her movements were fluid and graceful, like a predator that had never known fear. Captain Minho and his crew stood in the main corridor to greet them. The aliens were all much taller than the humans, and their red glowing eyes made the hallway feel cold and threatening. But Minho noticed something else. They looked tired. There were dark circles under their eyes, and their skin seemed paler than it should be. "Welcome aboard the New Soul," Minho said, trying to sound diplomatic. "I'm Captain Lee Minho." Empress Valara nodded slowly. "I am honored to stand in your presence," she replied. "We must begin the bonding ceremony immediately. My people have traveled far to witness this historic moment." "About that," Minho started, but one of the guards stepped forward. It was the warrior from the video call, Commander Zephyr. He was even bigger in person, with muscles that looked like they could crush metal. His golden armor was covered in battle scars. "Empress," Zephyr said, his voice filled with anger. "I cannot allow this insult to continue. This human is weak and small. He cannot possibly be worthy of claiming you. I demand the right of combat to prove his unworthiness." "Commander," the Empress said calmly, "you forget yourself. The human showed courage that no other species has ever displayed. He looked upon the might of our empire and claimed me without hesitation. Such boldness cannot come from weakness." Park Ji-woo was working frantically at a portable computer she had brought with her. She pulled Minho aside and whispered urgently, "Captain, I've been researching their culture. The claiming ritual is serious business for them. According to this, when someone claims their ruler, it means they're challenging the entire power structure of their society." "What does that mean for us?" Minho asked quietly. "It means," said Choi Yuna, who had been scanning the aliens with her medical tricorder, "that they think you're incredibly powerful. My readings show they're all energy depleted. They're like batteries running on empty. But something about us is making them feel better." Minho looked back at the aliens. Now that she mentioned it, they did seem more alert than when they first boarded. Their red eyes were brighter and they were standing straighter. Kim Tae-hyung approached with his translation device. "Captain, I've been working on the translation problem. I think when you said 'I want you,' their system interpreted it as a formal mating challenge. In their culture, only the strongest warriors can claim the right to court their empress. Can't we just explain that it was a misunderstanding?" Minho asked. Taehyung shook his head. I tried, but every time I say misunderstanding or mistake, it comes out as tactical deception or courtship strategy. Their language doesn't seem to have concepts for accidental humor. Commander Zephyr stepped closer to Minho. The human captain barely came up to the alien's chest, but Minho didn't back down. Human, Zephyr growled. If you truly believe you can claim our empress, then prove it. Face me in combat, as our traditions demand. Combat, Minho said. He looked at the massive alien warrior, then at his own human frame. Look, I think there's been a big misunderstanding here. There has been no misunderstanding, Empress Valara said firmly. You claimed me before, my entire court. The ritual must be completed or both our peoples will suffer dishonor. Park Ji-woo grabbed Minho's arm. Captain, I'm reading something strange in their cultural database. It says that Velkari society is based on energy hierarchies. The stronger your life force, the higher your rank. They think you must have incredible power to dare claim their empress. But I don't have incredible power, Minho whispered back. Maybe you do, Choi Yuna said, looking at her scanner. Captain, human bioelectric fields are much stronger than most species. We evolved on a planet with unusual magnetic properties. What if that made our life energy more potent? Minho looked around at his crew, then back at the waiting aliens. Commander Zephyr was flexing his claws, clearly eager for a fight. The other Velkari guards were watching intently, as if this was the most important thing they had ever seen. If I fight your commander, Minho said to the Empress, what happens when I lose? If you lose, she replied, it will prove you were unworthy to claim me. You and your people will become our servants, as is traditional. And if I win? If you win, her eyes glowed brighter, then you will have proven your worthiness. The Aoi bonding ceremony will continue, and our peoples will be united. Minho sighed. Either way, it seemed like humanity was about to become very involved with the Velkari Empire. What kind of combat are we talking about? Commander Zephyr smiled, showing sharp white teeth. Single combat, no weapons. We fight until one of us can no longer continue. Hand to hand? Minho asked. Hand to hand, Zephyr confirmed. Park Ji-woo stepped forward. Captain, I don't think this is a good idea. He's twice your size and probably 3 times your strength. I know, Minho said. But look around. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and apparently caught up in some kind of alien marriage ceremony. Fighting might be our only chance to avoid slavery. Choi Yuna was still studying her scanner readings. Captain, there's something else. The aliens are getting stronger just by being near us. Our bioenergy is affecting them somehow. It's like we're charging their batteries. Is that good or bad? Minho asked. I'm not sure yet, she admitted. Empress Valara stepped between Minho and Commander Zephyr. The combat will take place on my ship before the assembled court. This is a matter of honor that must be witnessed properly. When? Minho asked. Now, she said. My people are waiting. Commander Zephyr laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Prepare yourself, little human. I have never lost a combat challenge. Your courage is admirable, but courage alone will not save you from my claws. As they prepared to leave for the Velkari ship, Taehyung pulled Minho aside. Captain, I've been thinking about their energy problems. What if they're not evil conquerors? What if they're just desperate? A dying species looking for a way to survive? That would explain why they've been conquering other worlds, Minho said. They're not expanding their empire, they're feeding it. And now they think humans might be the solution to their problem, Park Ji-woo added. Minho looked at his crew, his friends who had followed him across the galaxy. They were scared but determined. They trusted him to find a way through this impossible situation. Well, he said with a grim smile, I guess we're about to find out if humans are as tough as we think we are. The group moved toward the airlock, heading for what might be humanity's first interstellar war, or its strangest diplomatic breakthrough. The Velkari ship was unlike anything Minho had ever seen. The corridors were wide and tall, with walls that seemed to pulse with dark energy. Strange symbols glowed along the surfaces, and the air felt thick and electric. As they walked, more, Valkyrie appeared from side passages, following the group toward what Minho assumed was some kind of arena. "Captain," Park Jiwoo whispered as they walked, "I'm picking up incredible energy readings from this ship. It's like the entire vessel is alive." "That's because it is," Empress Valara said, overhearing them. "Our ships are grown, not built. They feed on the same energy that sustains us." They entered a large circular chamber with a raised platform in the center. Hundreds of Valkyrie filled the space around it, all watching with glowing red eyes. They were silent, but Minho could feel their attention like a physical weight. These beings had lived for thousands of years, conquered dozens of worlds, and now they were about to watch a small human fight, their greatest warrior. Commander Zephyr leaped onto the platform with inhuman grace. He began removing his armor, revealing a body that looked like it was carved from stone. His muscles moved like steel cables under his pale skin, and his claws were as long as Minho's fingers. "This is insane," Choi Yuna muttered, checking her medical scanner. "Captain, his bone density is off the charts. He's literally built like a living weapon." "Any advice?" Minho asked his crew. "Don't get hit," Taehyung said helpfully. "Thanks," Minho replied dryly. He climbed onto the platform feeling very small and very human. The Valkyrie around the chamber began making low humming sounds, some kind of traditional combat chant, he guessed. Empress Valara raised her hand, and the crowd fell silent. "Let it be known," she announced, "that Captain Lee Minho of the humans has claimed the right of bonding with the Empress of the Valkyrie. Commander Zephyr challenges this claim. Combat will continue until one warrior can no longer fight." She looked directly at Minho. "May the strongest prove their worth." Commander Zephyr crouched into a fighting stance that looked both elegant and deadly. "Are you ready to face the consequences of your boldness, human?" Minho rolled his shoulders and tried to remember his martial arts training from the academy. It had been designed for fighting other humans, not alien super warriors, but it was all he had. "As ready as I'll ever be," he said. The fight began without ceremony. Zephyr moved faster than Minho had expected, crossing the platform in a single bound. His clawed hand swept toward Minho's head with enough force to decapitate him. But Minho had been expecting speed. Aliens always seemed to be faster than humans in the old movies. He dropped low and rolled to the side, feeling the wind from Zephyr's claws pass over his head. The crowd made surprised sounds. Apparently, most opponents didn't dodge the first attack. Zephyr spun and attacked again, this time with both hands. Minho scrambled backward, barely avoiding the swipes. He tried a quick punch to Zephyr's ribs, but it was like hitting a stone wall. His knuckles screamed in pain. "Is that all?" Zephyr taunted, not even breathing hard. "I expected more from one bold enough to claim our Empress." Minho circled around the platform, trying to think. Strength wasn't going to work. The alien was, clearly much stronger. Speed wouldn't help either. Zephyr was faster too. But humans had survived on Earth by being smarter and more persistent than their predators. Zephyr charged again, and this time Minho didn't try to dodge completely. Instead, he used the alien's momentum against him, grabbing Zephyr's arm and using a judo throw to send him tumbling across the platform. It wasn't enough to hurt the commander, but it caught him off guard. The crowd's humming changed pitch. They sounded interested now. "Clever," Zephyr admitted, getting back to his feet. "But cleverness will only delay your defeat." For the next several minutes, the fight continued in the same pattern. Zephyr would attack with overwhelming force and speed, and Minho would barely escape, sometimes managing to redirect the alien's attacks or land a weak counterstrike. It was clear that Minho was outmatched in every physical way, but something interesting was happening. Zephyr was starting to breathe harder, while Minho, despite being battered and bruised, seemed to be maintaining his energy level. The humans' endurance was holding up better than expected. "Captain," Choi Yuna called from the crowd, "the energy readings around you are spiking. Something about combat is amplifying your bioelectric field." Minho noticed it too. He felt tired and hurt, but not exhausted. On Earth, humans had been persistence hunters. They chased prey for hours until it collapsed from exhaustion. Maybe, That trait would help here. Commander Zephyr was starting to make mistakes. His attacks were still powerful but less precise. Sweat was running down his pale skin, and his glowing eyes were dimming slightly. "How are you still standing?" Zephyr demanded after another failed attempt to grab Minho. "Lesser species fall within minutes." "I'm human," Minho panted, wiping blood from his nose. "We don't know when to quit." Around the chamber, the Velkari were leaning forward, their humming becoming more excited. Some of them looked shocked. According to Park Jiwoo's research, most ritual combats ended quickly, with the challenger either proving their strength immediately or being crushed by the defender. No one had expected this small human to keep fighting for so long. Zephyr roared in frustration and launched himself at Minho with everything he had left, but the alien was tired now, and his form was sloppy. Minho sidestepped the charge and swept Zephyr's legs, sending the massive warrior crashing to the platform floor. Before Zephyr could get up, Minho jumped on his back and wrapped his arm around the alien's throat in a chokehold. It was a desperate move. He wasn't strong enough to actually choke the alien, but he could make it harder for Zephyr to breathe. "Yield," Minho gasped. "You're exhausted. This isn't worth dying for." "Never," Zephyr snarled, but his voice was weak. He tried to throw Minho off, but the human held on with grim determination. The crowd's humming reached a fever pitch. The Velkari had never seen anything like this. A tiny creature from an unknown world, fighting their greatest warrior to a standstill through sheer stubbornness. Finally, Commander Zephyr's struggles grew weaker. His energy was completely drained. "I yield," he whispered. Minho released him and rolled away, gasping for breath. His entire body ached, and he was pretty sure he had at least 3 broken ribs. But he was still standing, while the mighty Commander Zephyr lay motionless on the platform. The chamber fell completely silent. Then, slowly, Empress Valara began to clap her hands together. The sound echoed through the space, and gradually, the other Velkari joined in. It wasn't cheering exactly, but it was definitely approval. "Incredible," the Empress said, stepping onto the platform. "In all our history, no one has defeated Commander Zephyr through endurance alone. Your species possesses a strength we have never encountered." Minho struggled to his feet, swaying slightly. "Does this mean the combat is over?" "It means," Empress Valara said with something that might have been a smile, "that you have proven yourself worthy. The bonding ceremony may continue." Around the chamber, the assembled Velkari began humming again, but this time it sounded like celebration rather than anticipation of violence. Minho looked at his crew, who were staring at him with expressions of pride and amazement. He had just beaten an alien super warrior in single combat, and apparently that meant he was about to marry their empress. This was definitely not covered in the first contact protocols. After the combat, Empress Valara led them to a private chamber deeper in the ship. The room was elegant but strange, with furniture that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Soft purple light came from panels in the walls, and the air hummed with energy. Minho's crew sat together on one side of the room while the Empress stood across from them looking thoughtful. "Your people confuse us," she said finally. "We have conquered 47 star systems. We have faced warriors from 100 different species, yet none of them fought the way you did today." "How did they fight?" Minho asked. Choi Yuna was treating his injuries with her medical kit, and every movement hurt. "They relied on strength, speed, or special abilities," the Empress replied. "When those failed, they surrendered or died. But you simply refused to give up, even when defeat seemed certain." Park Jiwoo looked up from her computer. "Captain, I've been reading more about their culture. The Velkari Empire isn't really an empire at all. It's more like a desperate migration. They've been moving from system to system for thousands of years." "Migration from what?" Tai Hyung asked. Empress Valara was quiet for a long moment. Then she walked to one of the walls and touched a panel. The surface changed, showing a star map, with dozens of systems marked in red. "From death," she said simply. "Our species requires life energy to survive. For millennia, we fed on the natural energy of planets, solar radiation, electromagnetic fields, geothermal power. But those sources are limited and eventually depleted. The star map changed, showing the red systems fading to black one by one. About 5,000 years ago, we discovered that living beings generate a much more potent form of energy. We began harvesting it from other species, but... She paused, looking sad. But we are not monsters by choice. When we drain a species completely, they die. When they die, their worlds become empty. We are forced to move on to survive. You're refugees, Minho said, understanding dawning on him. You're not conquerors, you're refugees running from starvation. Yes, the Empress admitted. And we are losing the race. Each world provides less energy than the last. Our people grow weaker with each generation. Soon there will be nowhere left to run. Choi Yuna was studying her medical scanner with fascination. Captain, look at this. The energy readings around us have been increasing since we came aboard. But it's not draining us, we're generating more energy than usual. What does that mean? Minho asked. It means, Park Ji-woo said excitedly, that humans might be compatible with their energy requirements. Maybe we can give them what they need, without being harmed. Empress Valara stared at them. Impossible. No species can share energy without dying. We have tested this on thousands of creatures. But humans aren't like other species, Taehyung said. We evolved on a world with unusual magnetic properties. Maybe that made us different. Choi Yuna nodded enthusiastically. Captain, remember how they seem to get stronger just by being near us? And during the fight, your bioelectric field was amplifying instead of diminishing. Human energy might actually increase when it's shared, rather than drained. Minho looked at the star map, thinking about all those dead worlds. What if we could work together? Humans provide sustainable energy, and you provide protection and technology? Work together? The Empress seemed confused by the concept. You mean partnership? Equal partnership, Minho confirmed. Not masters and servants, but allies. We help you survive, and you help us explore the galaxy. The idea seemed to shock her. In all our history, we have never formed partnerships. There are always rulers and subjects, predators and prey. That's because you never met humans before, Park Ji-woo said with a grin. We specialize in impossible partnerships. Over the next few hours, they worked out the basics of what such a relationship might look like. Human colonies could be established in Valkyrie space, providing the life energy the aliens needed while benefiting from their advanced technology. The humans wouldn't be harmed. If anything, the energy exchange seemed to make both species stronger. Commander Zephyr, recovered from his defeat but walking with obvious respect for Minho, brought disturbing news. Empress, we have received messages from the capital. Prince Vex has declared your actions treasonous. He is gathering a fleet to correct your contamination by inferior species. How long before they arrive? Valara asked. 3 days, Zephyr replied. 12 battlecruisers and 50 support vessels. Who is Prince Vex? Minho asked. My cousin, the Empress said with distaste. He believes our people should embrace our role as conquerors rather than seeking alternatives. He has opposed every attempt to find a sustainable solution to our energy crisis. So he wants to keep consuming planets until there's nothing left? Taehyung said. He believes strength is the only truth in the universe, Valara replied. The idea that we might cooperate with a lesser species would be unthinkable to him. Minho stood up, wincing as his injuries protested. Then we need to show him that cooperation is stronger than conquest. How do we do that? Park Ji-woo asked. We prepare a demonstration he can't ignore, Minho said, his mind working quickly. Commander Zephyr, how many ships do you have here? 20 vessels of various sizes, Zephyr replied, but they are mostly scouts and transports. Against Prince Vex's battle fleet, we would be severely outmatched. What if those 20 ships were enhanced with human energy and human tactical thinking? Minho asked. Empress Valara's eyes widened. You would fight beside us? Even though this conflict could mean war with our entire empire? If Prince Vex wins, he'll either destroy us or enslave us, Minho pointed out. Either way, this partnership ends. But if we win together, we prove that cooperation works. The odds are still heavily against us, Commander Zephyr warned. Good, Minho said with a smile that made his crew laugh and the aliens look confused. Humans love impossible odds. That's when we do our best work. Park Jiwoo was already working on her computer. I can start integrating human systems with their ship controls. Our computers process information differently. We might be able to give them tactical advantages they've never had. I can work on the energy interface systems, Choi Yuna added. If we can create stable connections between human biofields and Velkari technology, their ships might become much more powerful. Taehyung nodded. And I can work on communications. If we can coordinate human and Velkari tactics in real time, we might be able to outmaneuver a larger force. Empress Valara looked around at the humans, then at her own people. You would risk everything for a species you met only days ago? We're not doing it just for you, Minho said honestly. We're doing it because this could be the beginning of something incredible, a partnership between species that could change the entire galaxy. And, he added with another smile, because someone needs to show Prince Vex that humans don't make good slaves. Commander Zephyr actually laughed at that, a sound like grinding stone that somehow managed to be amused. I begin to understand why you were able to claim our Empress. Your species does not know the meaning of surrender. Oh, we know the meaning, Minho said. We just choose to ignore it. Outside, the stars waited. In 3 days, they would face impossible odds against a force that wanted to destroy everything they were trying to build. But for the first time since arriving in Velkari, space, Minho felt optimistic. Humans had always been at their best when everything seemed hopeless. Prince Vex's fleet arrived exactly when Commander Zephyr predicted. 62 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. Each ship was 3 times larger than anything in Empress. Valara's small fleet and their combined firepower could destroy entire planets. Minho stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the enemy fleet arrange itself for battle. The past 3 days had been the most intense of his life. Working around the clock, the human crew had helped integrate their systems with Velkari technology in ways that neither species had thought possible. Status report, he said to Park. Jiwoo. All ships are reporting successful human-Velkari interface connections, she replied. Our bioenergy is feeding directly into their weapon and shield systems. Power levels are at 180% of normal capacity. Communications are linked across the entire fleet, Taehyung added. Human tactical computers are running coordination algorithms that should let us move like a single organism. Choi Yuna looked up from her medical scanner. All human volunteers are showing stable energy output. No signs of fatigue or depletion. If anything, the shared energy link is making everyone feel stronger. Empress Valara stood beside Minho, no longer wearing her ceremonial armor. Instead, she wore a simple uniform similar to the ones the humans used. It was a symbolic change. They were partners now, not ruler and subjects. Prince Vex is demanding that I surrender immediately, she reported. He promises to spare my life if I hand over all humans for proper processing. What does proper processing mean? Minho asked. Complete energy drain followed by death, she said grimly. He views your species as nothing more than a new type of prey. The communication system crackled to life. Prince Vex's voice filled the bridge, speaking in the formal, arrogant tone that seemed common among Velkari nobility. Cousin Valara, your madness has gone too far. These creatures have clearly poisoned your mind with their primitive concepts. Surrender now, and I will ensure your death is quick. Counter-offer, Minho said, stepping forward. Leave this system immediately, and we'll let your fleet retreat with minimal casualties. There was a long pause. Then Prince Vex began laughing, a cold, cruel sound that made the air itself seem colder. The pet speaks, he said mockingly. Tell me, little human, do you truly believe your pathetic vessels can stand against the might of the Velkari fleet? I think you're about to find out, Minho replied calmly. The enemy fleet began moving forward in attack formation. Their ships were powerful and well-coordinated, but they moved in predictable patterns that followed traditional Velkari military doctrine. The kind of tactics that had worked against dozens of other species over thousands of years. But humans didn't fight like other species. All ships, execute pattern Delta, Minho ordered. What happened next had never been seen in galactic warfare before. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on in a traditional battle line, the human Velkari fleet scattered in seemingly random directions. But it wasn't random. It was controlled chaos, with each ship following complex mathematical patterns calculated by human computers and powered by human intuition. Prince Vex's fleet tried to adjust, but their commanders were confused by the unconventional tactics. They were used to enemies who fought according to established rules of warfare. The human-influenced fleet ignored all those rules. "Enemy ships are having trouble targeting us," reported Commander Zephyr from his vessel. "Their weapon systems cannot predict our movement patterns." "That's because there are no patterns," Park Jiwoo explained with satisfaction. "We're using pseudo-random algorithms based on human combat psychology. Even we don't know exactly where we'll be from moment to moment." The first phase of the battle was a series of hit-and-run attacks. Human-enhanced Velkari ships would appear out of nowhere, strike with devastating force, and disappear before the enemy could respond. The larger enemy vessels found themselves trying to swat flies that moved like lightning and hit like hammers. "Impossible," came Prince Vex's voice over the communication channel. "These energy readings. Your ships are operating beyond maximum capacity. What have you done?" "Evolution," Empress Valara replied simply. The battle continued for hours. Prince Vex's fleet was larger and more heavily armed, but they couldn't cope with the human-inspired tactics. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting, powered by human bioenergy that seemed to grow stronger under pressure. Formations that should have held together fell apart under attacks that came from impossible angles. But the most shocking moment came when Taehyung activated the secret weapon they had spent 3 days preparing. "Broadcasting on all Velkari communication frequencies," he announced. Across the entire enemy fleet, screens and speakers came alive with images and sounds from the human-Velkari partnership. They showed Velkari and humans working together, sharing energy without harm, building something new and hopeful. They showed dying Velkari worlds being restored by human bioenergy. They showed a future where both species could thrive together. The effect was immediate. Several of Prince Vex's ships began slowing down, their crews listening to the broadcasts with growing amazement. These were Velkari who had spent their entire lives believing that conquest was the only path to survival. Now they were seeing proof that partnership could work. "What is this sorcery?" Prince Vex demanded. "It's called hope," Minho said. "Maybe you've heard of it." More enemy ships began breaking formation. Some were actively switching sides, their crews sending messages of support to Empress Valara. Others simply stopped fighting, unwilling to destroy what might be their species' only chance for a sustainable future. Prince Vex's voice became desperate. "Do not listen to these lies. Strength is the only truth. Conquest is our destiny." But his words carried no weight against the evidence before their eyes. The human Velkari fleet was not just surviving, it was winning. And more importantly, it was offering something that conquest never could: a future without endless war. The final confrontation came when Prince Vex's flagship, isolated and abandoned by most of his fleet, made a suicide run toward the human vessel. Minho could have destroyed it easily, but instead he did something that shocked everyone. He ordered his ship to stand down and let it approach. "Captain, what are you doing?" Park Jiwoo asked frantically. "Showing them what humans are really about," Minho replied. When Prince Vex's ship came within range, instead of attacking, Minho opened a communication channel and extended an offer of partnership. Even to his most bitter enemy, even in the middle of battle, he offered cooperation instead of destruction. Prince Vex was so stunned by the gesture that he actually stopped his attack. For a moment, his ship hung motionless in space while he tried to process the concept of mercy from someone he had tried to kill. "Why?" he asked finally. "Because this is bigger than any of us," Minho said. "Your people are dying, Prince Vex, all of them. The old ways aren't working anymore, but we're offering you something better." It took several more hours of negotiation, but eventually even Prince Vex agreed to a ceasefire. The sight of his own people choosing cooperation over conquest had shaken his fundamental beliefs about the universe. 3 months later, Captain Lee Minho stood in the Garden of New Harmony, the first joint human Velkari colony. The settlement was thriving, with both species working together to build something neither could have achieved alone. Human bioenergy was restoring life to dead Velkari worlds, while Velkari technology was opening up new possibilities for human expansion among the stars. That Empress Velara approached him, carrying a tablet with reports from across their growing alliance. "The Council has approved 12 new joint colonies," she said, "and we've received requests from 6 other species who want to join our partnership." "That's good news," Minho replied. "What about Prince Vex? He's actually become one of our most effective ambassadors," she said with amusement. Apparently, having his entire worldview overturned by a joke-making human was a transformative experience. Minho laughed. It still amazed him that a simple misunderstanding had led to all this. One casual comment had accidentally triggered an ancient mating ritual, which had led to combat, which had led to partnership, which had led to the transformation of an entire galactic civilization. "Any regrets?" Velara asked. Minho looked out, at the bustling colony, where human children were learning Velkari energy techniques while Velkari youngsters played human games. It was chaotic and strange and absolutely wonderful. "Only one," he said. "What's that?" "I really should have made that joke a long time ago." Empress Velara smiled, an expression she had learned from humans and found surprisingly useful. In the distance, ships from dozens of worlds were arriving, bringing new species who wanted to learn about this revolutionary concept called cooperation. The galaxy was changing, one partnership at a time, and it had all started with a human who didn't know when to surrender, and an alien who learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is share your power with others. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities that neither species could have imagined alone. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Minho was already planning his next joke.